Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to our UU Holton service on this Memorial Day weekend. It's nice to see each of you here. It's nice to see the sunshine. It's been kind of a wet weekend. These are the last of the tulips in our flower garden. They're kind of rotating out by the looks of it. And did bring in some crabapple blossoms off my mother's tree in front of our house. And this week it seems like a lot of the apple blossoms and fruit trees pretty much have been at peak. And yesterday, the tree out front was at peak, and then the wind and the rain came. And I looked out the window and I told Linda, it's raining apple blossoms. So I did get a couple of great photographs of blossoms laying on the green lawn. So you'll see some of those photographs next week on the mail out. Our prelude this morning is from our good friend Putnam Smith, who lives in Portland, Maine. And this is a meditation piece on apple blossoms. We play this song each year when the fruit trees, cherry, crabapple, and apple, begin to blossom in the county. This is the opening song off the album, We Would Be Beekeepers, and is titled, I Dream of Apple Orchards. I dream of apple orchards. Steve, would you light our chalice for us this morning? I can almost see the apple blossoms blowing in the wind. In times of darkness, the light is not absent, diminished perhaps, but still present. We light the chalice as a symbol of hope. We seek the light each and every day. Opening words this morning are from a book, Earth Prayers, and this is a prayer titled, Make Us One by Helen Weaver. Almighty God, who are mother and father to us all, look upon your planet Earth divided. Help us to know that we are all your children, that all nations belong to one great family, that all of our religions lead to you. Multiply our prayers in every land until the whole earth becomes your congregation united in your love. Sustain our vision of a peaceful future and give us the strength to work unceasingly to make that vision real. Amen. Blessed be. In our moment of centering silence, let us be mindful and alert to the here and now. Let us sit calmly, breathe, and listen to the sound of a singing bowl. It is better to go through this world with its challenges together than it is to go through it alone. We are one, yet separate, sharing this life together. Let us light candles as we continue the journey. We light the candle of national grief and mourning for another mass shooting this week, this time at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, just days before the beginning of summer vacation. 21 dead, along with the shooter, age 18. When will the killing stop? When will the violence in this country diminish? We light this candle this morning. This is Memorial Day weekend, and I've noticed flags and bunting going up everywhere around town, businesses, restaurants, and in the small surrounding towns around the area. So I'm going to light a candle this morning. On this Memorial Day weekend. With this candle, we honor those who have served our country, for those who have given their life to protect our nation, and also for all those who have diligently and selflessly worked to protect and to promote the democratic process and freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And usually during this service, we'll mention names while this candle is burning of family members or individuals that we have known who have served the country and come back, for those who did not return. So we're going to take just a moment and just speak those names out before we move on with some more candles this morning.
Garrett.
my uncle, Ira Hersey, who served in the Pacific during World War II.
Jim's dad, Algernon Ezekiel Holden, who served, he was a doughboy in World War I. And Winfield Lowry's son, Jonathan, who passed away as a hero in Kuwait.
We remember those this weekend as we go to cemeteries, attend events in the community this weekend, as well as early summer celebrations of getting outdoors, barbecues, planting gardens and seeds, and remembering family, those who have gone before us, and we, as we continue on the hard work and the honor of living in this country. So I can help light candles if anyone, you can come down and light one yourself, or I'll assist.
Can you light a candle for me for the people in northern Maine, especially Van Buren and Cedar Plantation? I have two friends that live up there, and they sent me pictures yesterday. Their cemetery in Van Buren was completely flooded almost to the top of the stones from the torrential rain, and I believe it was Route 1 road had a giant gap in it, and that's the only road, as far as I know, that goes from Caribou to Van Buren. And it was in Cedar Plantation, and it was washed straight out. No one could pass until they fixed it. Looked like an earthquake had struck.
Mm-hmm.
A candle for generating ideas of what our church could do, even in small ways, to contribute to promoting peace instead of gun violence. It's like maybe as a group, because together we're stronger.
Well, when I look out my office window, just seeing the peace pole in Monument Square downtown, sometimes that keeps me going on rough weeks such as this. Deb?
I just want a candle of joy because I'm retired, and now that I'm not subject to the Hatch Act, I can actually do some stuff.
Also, Fenn is on his way back to Holton from New Orleans. On a road trip with his dad, went down, and they're driving back as we speak. So that candle is for road safety, efficient trip coming back. It'll be good to see him next week here at the service.
Could you do one for my daughter, May? She has thyroid cancer, and she's not getting anything done about it.
Where is she living right now?
She lives with me right now.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's just trying to do holistic healing
Okay.
on her own.
This candle's for May. And lighting a silent candle for those unspoken prayers and the concerns that we carry. In this world of contention, struggle, and yet incredible beauty, we offer our prayers of healing, for good health and sound mind. May all find their basic needs supplied for food, shelter, safety, and basic dignity. May each of us be mindful not only of our own needs, but the needs of others as well. This is our heartfelt prayer on this day. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be. Our group reading this morning goes along with the sermon, and it's a part of a poem by Mary Oliver titled Wild Geese, and it's number 490 in our hymn book. Wild geese. You do not have to be good.
You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert and hunting.
You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
Tell me about the stare, yours and ours on.
Meanwhile, the world goes on.
Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers.
Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again.
Wherever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
So the title of today's talk could be Singing in the Dark, or the alternate title is Whistling in the Dark. Okay, Christoph, are we ready? Take 2, homily, Singing in the Dark. Last week, someone mentioned that they had not heard peepers as of yet this spring, and they were wondering if they were out yet. Years ago, he had lived in the woods and had enjoyed the peepers singing in spring, but was now living in town, and it's hard to find a good swamp in town. As there is a large wetland area, or swamp, right next to my parents' house, I assured him that, yes indeed, the peepers were right on cue with their springtime performance about 8 p.m. each night. As I listened to the peepers one night this past week, their swamp song inspired me to come up with today's homily, which is titled Singing in the Dark. A couple of years ago, a book discussion group I was in selected Where the Crawdads Sing, written by Delia Owens. It was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for 32 weeks. Owens is an American zoologist who moved to Africa back in the 1970s, and Where the Crawdads Sing was her first novel, written at the age of 70. It was recently made into a major motion picture starring Daisy Edgar-Jones and Taylor Smith, and its release date is this summer, July 2022. And the trailer's already out in case you'd like to take a look. The story takes place in a wild coastal marsh in North Carolina, set in the 1960s, and it's about a young girl whose family abandons her and she fends for herself in the wild. Her name is Kaya, and she is known as the Marsh Girl. The book is a combination genre mix of love story, nature, naturalist, poetry, and a good murder mystery. It has a little bit of everything in it. For our purposes today, we are looking at the marsh as a metaphor for transformation. Life coming from dark and organic places. Our life-changing connection to each other and to nature when we might need it the most. This is from the opening page of the novel. Marsh is not swamp. Marsh is a space of light, where grass grows in water and water flows to the sky. Slow-moving creeks wander, carrying the orb of the sun with them to the sea. And long-legged birds lift with unexpected grace, as though not built to fly, against the roar of 1,000 snow geese. Then within the marsh, here and there, true swamp crawls into low-lying bogs, hidden in clammy forests. Swamp water is still and dark, having swallowed the light in its muddy throat. Even night crawlers are diurnal in this lair. There are sounds, of course, but compared to the marsh, the swamp is quiet because decomposition is cellular work. Life decays and reeks and returns to the rotted duff, a poignant swallow of death begetting life. Light and new life in the dark. On my family's 50-acre farm, every square inch was cleared and utilized for some economically productive or aesthetic purpose. According to my father, every acre planted in potatoes was an acre well used. The only land that was not cleared were the two wetland areas, or as my father called them, swamps. There's a large one on the front of the property along US Route 1, and then a smaller one near the back of the farm. In his attempt to find a useful purpose for the front swamp, he dug what he called a spray hole on one end of it. This formed a small pond where he could fill the tank on his potato sprayer, which he used to apply pest control products, otherwise known as spray. Back in those days, wetlands were considered wasted land and oftentimes ended up as underappreciated or a good place to locate a town dump. In recent years, that perception has changed, and wetlands have become protected and properly regarded as wildlife sanctuaries, one of the most alive and wildlife-attracting locations that we have. These unproductive areas are productive after all. Singing in the dark, like peepers in the wetlands, or the unfamiliar sounds of perhaps we don't know quite what, or the awakening birds of the early morning dawn. This is the music of life, dwelling, thriving, and gradually emerging from the dark. In these dark times right now, when uncertainty seeps into seemingly every little crack of our life and culture, when war is not far away and daily in the news, while gun violence makes weekly headlines here at home, and democracy itself is in persistent political peril, this is a time when we need to be able to find a song in the darkness and sing it the best we can, by ourselves and with others. The peepers may be small in size, but large in number. Go out into the early night and listen to their voice. Listen to the song. The early 20th German playwright Bertolt Brecht said, "In the dark times will there also be singing." Yes, there will also be singing, singing about the dark times. And the great Indian poet Tagore once wrote, "Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark." In Where the Crawdads Sing, Kaya eventually comes to know the marshland as her home. She comes to know it with first-hand experience, first-person observation, and her life becomes inseparable from the land and marsh itself. Here is a passage from the book and a short poem from her favorite poet, who, as it turns out in the end of the book, is her. Sorry about the spoiler. I promise I won't give away anything else in case you haven't read the book. This is from page 34. The sun, warm as a blanket, wrapped Kaya's shoulders, coaxing her deeper into the marsh. Sometimes she heard night sounds she didn't know, or jumped from lightning too close. But whenever she stumbled, it was the land that caught her. Until at last, at some unclaimed moment, the heart pain seeped away like water into sand. Still there, but deep. Kaya laid her hand upon the breathing, wet earth, and the marsh became her mother. Later, wandering her beach, she recited her favorite Amanda Hamilton poem. Fading moon, follow my footsteps through light unbroken by land shadows, and share my senses and feel the cool shoulders of silence. Only you know how one side of a moment is stretched by loneliness for miles to the other edge, and how much sky is in one breath when time slides backward from the sand. Kaya figured if anyone understood loneliness, the moon would. Drifting back to the predictable cycles of tadpoles and the ballet of fireflies, Kaya burrowed deeper into the wordless wilderness. Nature seemed the only stone that would not slip midstream. Nature had nurtured, tutored, and protected her when no one else would. If consequences resulted from her behaving differently, then they too were functions of life's fundamental core. For Kaya, it was enough to be part of its natural sequence as sure as the tides. She was indeed, to her planet and its life, in a way few people are, rooted solid in this earth, born of this mother. So I admit, everything in the world might feel a bit mucky right now. It is a dark time and a dark place, but that doesn't mean we can't still sing. We are in transition, and it is during this seemingly slow-moving and unpleasant life experience that we are transforming into something that is different. Into this difference is what we are becoming. The singing and the song is a sign we are not quite finished yet. We are still becoming, we are still singing, even when it's singing in the dark. In closing, another poem by Amanda Hamilton. Never underrate the heart, capable of deeds a mind cannot conceive. The heart dictates as well as feels. How else can you explain the path I have taken, that you have taken, the long way through this past?